Here at South Louisiana Bank, we know the importance of working together as a team.
We're always here for you when you need a loan. By the way, here's that crawfish powder you needed. You can borrow it anytime.
So whether it's business or personal banking, we do it all. Visit our locations to find out how we can support your financial needs.
Good luck with the restaurant.
Thank you. And tell your mama thanks for the recipe. Her secret's safe with me.
I will.
South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Facebook YouTube coverage. And we look back at the year 2024. And here's what happened in November. Welcome to this Bayou Time news special. I'm Martin Faust. Now, over the weekend in Houma, a Trump parade was held to shore up votes and turnouts for the former president of the United States and also the Republican chosen candidate for president in this year's election. Now, to most, this would be a very innocent parade, and it would be a big deal for most of the supporters in Houma who already know that Trump will garner somewhere between 70 and 80% in the area. However, there was one person in the parade that was leading the parade with lights on in his vehicle that had a Trump cutout, and that was the parish president, Jason Bergeron. Now, to most, that would be no big deal. Jason Bergeron leading the parade, voting for Trump. I'm sure his Trump base enjoyed that moment. But for others, it was a violation of the law. So now it brings me to the actual legal angle of what takes place. This is confusing to most. Most people who are just outside of government don't really understand why it would be such a big deal for the parish president to put a Trump cutout in the vehicle that he drives every day and be in a parade. But the laws are clearly stated. So I decided to bring in Tanner McGee, who was once elected by you all in this area, and he was guidelined by the same rules and regulations that really are the guidelines for all elected officials.
One of the things that's probably interesting about this case is that it touches three different areas of the law. There's the Constitution, which prohibits it, the election code that prohibits it, and the ethics laws that prohibit it. So it's three different sections that deal with this very specific issue, all of them applying to state and local officials, especially the constitutional article that prohibits public use of funds to urge you to vote for a candidate.
In talking with a lot of the council members and also the council chair, the vice chair, NAACP president, and others, I think the sentiment among all of them is to follow the law. As the leader of the NAACP, someone who's represented not only the African-American community, I got to give you some credit, you've represented the community in general on different issues. What's your thoughts on that?
First of all, Martin, it was wrong, and the parish president should not have done what he did. The only thing I can say to that is, if we had a government employee who would have done the same thing that the parish president did, that person would have been fired. The rules are clear, the policy is clear, the law is clear, and all I can say is the community as a whole is upset about what the parish president did, Jason Bergeron.
I also spoke with Councilman Brian Pledger on the situation. When did you first see it, or did you see it in person, or did somebody send you a picture? When did you first become aware that this was taking place with the parish president?
Well, I started receiving, I just randomly received a picture, and then I started receiving phone calls back to back to back, and I had some questions. Because with technology today, it could have been photoshopped, it could have been, who knows, right? And I was wanting to kind of see for myself. I said, well, I don't know if this is really what people are telling me. So I decided to go out, and that's when I went out, I actually saw it for myself, and I was able to take a couple pictures myself, just to capture the moment, to see if we really do have a problem here.
Also, Tanner McGee, the House Speaker Pro Temp, he sat down with us because as Speaker Pro Temp, he also was guidelined by the same rules and regulations. So we spoke to him about what his insights were, both as a speaker and as an attorney, knowing the law. Outside of what people's actual politics are, there's laws. But people are sort of mixing this up to, well, why can't he ride with a Trump son in the vehicle? But this is beyond politics, beyond racial motivation. The law is the law. So can you sort of break down the law for us?
Sure. President Bergeron is more, he can ride around a Trump bumper sticker on his private car. He can take photos of Trump. He can put it on his Facebook page, his private Facebook page. What he can't do is use any public funds to support Trump. And that's, across the board. I think a lot of people in Terrell Parish would be very upset if a public official used their tax dollars to support Kamala Harris. So you have to do the rules will have to apply to everybody. Mm-hmm. And so when he's using his official public capacity, and the real key issue is public funds. Mm-hmm. And so if he's in a public vehicle and he's tanked up that car and there's the maintenance in the road, all that's going to be public funds. That's where the problem becomes, is the public funds, not the fact that he is supporting a particular candidate. He's a private citizen. He's entitled to his opinion. It's America. But it's the public funds. It's my tax dollars being used to ask you to vote in a certain particular way. That is the issue.
I also spoke with the council chair, John Amity, about if the council ever gets involved in some type of censorship or warning to a parish president in this circumstance. As the chair, how do you handle these types of things? And because obviously we've seen statewide a few of these incidents take place over the years, and they can be handled completely differently in each situation. But from a leadership standpoint, what do you do? How do you accept that? And then how do you convince the council as a whole what to do?
Well, Martin, there are things that the council can do pertaining to that. One of the first things that I did was contact administration and see how they were going to do it, because I wanted to give them first opportunity before we start trying to take any sort of actions, just to see what they do. In the past, in other parishes, when something like this happened, they reimburse for the usage of the vehicle and fuel costs and what have you, the market value of what a rental on that type vehicle would be. And I was told that first thing Monday morning he was going to do that. So I'm assuming that he took care of it. And so as long as he does the things that he needs to do to be responsible for his actions, because it was a lapse in judgment, then I think the council will hear what the public has to say, and then let it work its way through the procedures, the system of what it needs to be.
As a council, how are y'all going to address this?
Well, it happened over the weekend.
Was it just not knowing the law, or was it just maybe forgetting about the law?
If you want to be fair with it, I'm held to the same law that he is held to. There are some cases, ignorance of the law is no excuse. The old saying is, show me your company, and I'll tell you who you are. But your actions would definitely tell me who you are. It might have been, perhaps, I can't speak for the other person. I recall the parish president's election, I did not get involved with it because the same numbers that you mentioned that President Trump won by 78% of the vote in Terrebonne Parish, and he won the state of Louisiana. In that case, going forward for Terrebonne Parish, that's one of the reasons why I didn't get in openly go out and campaign for any particular candidate, because I have to work with anybody that's there. Mm-hmm. So going forward, in my opinion, was not a wise move, because basically the Democrats have already conceded the state of Louisiana. To go forward and show the rest of the people that you're going to be fair and not go to play with egos or who supported, who didn't support. I can't speak for him. I think, if he's in front of the mic, he's going to speak for himself. But I can speak for Carl Harding. I say, the way I see it, if I stayed out of the race, somebody else's business, to actually go forward where Carl Harding, an African-American representative, District 2, wanted to advance for the overall people in Terrebonne Parish, I would say it's a bad move.
What if the parish president says, okay, I realize now I made a mistake, takes out his checkbook, writes a check for, I guess, a day use. I mean, it was a day event, writes a check for a day of use and pays back the fuel. Does that make it any better?
I mean, I think from the standpoint of the authorities that would prosecute it, yes. I mean, they're not, people are out to get people. I mean, I don't think there's anybody who wants a public official who unintentionally makes a mistake and doesn't realize something to have it. But has a violation occurred? The violation still occurred. Now, if he would have done some sort of agreement on the front end, we're saying I'm going to rent this vehicle privately, and he can show and document that this was all private. Again, it would be more than just the use of more than just the gas that went into it. It'd also be the wear and tear on the vehicle. So it'd have to be a reasonable rate that you could expect to rent a like vehicle that he pays. All that would have to been done on the front end. And as an attorney, I would tell you, I'd like to have all that in writing and signed before, not after the fact. But I do think that will help when if there's a person in authority who is, whether it's the ethics board, whether it's the AG's office or the DA's office, when they're going through this thing, it's an honest mistake. He paid back the money, no big deal. I think that's what you're looking at. But as the letter of the law, there's no exception for that. It's a violation. The minute a public fund is expended, there was a violation.
We're talking about the parish president, someone who is our leader in our community. Martin, when businesses and other people who want to come to Terrebonne Parish, some of the things they look at is crime, they look at schools, they look at housing, and to tap on the Terrebonne Parish, if you're interested in moving a business here or moving to Terrebonne Parish, what do you see? You're going to see the parish president who rode around Terrebonne Parish in a government taxpayer's vehicle, like it was funny in a way, because they say he was boasting, he was smiling, he was happy about what he was doing. And that's the reason why people say he knew exactly what he was doing when he used that taxpayer vehicle to parade up and down Terrebonne Parish.
I want the people out there that's listening to me right now to understand this is not a white and black situation, and just because that may be the unspoken national thing that's not actually said here, I don't want nobody out there to actually pit it there and then it's going to be a white and black thing when you got Republicans, white and black, that disagree what's going on nationally. So, you know what I mean? No, that's not going to happen here in Terrebonne Parish. I don't want it to happen here in Terrebonne Parish.
To me, I feel it's pretty blatant that it happened, the way that it did. But at the same time, I want it to be a teachable moment, and we can visit some of those previous instances, and possibly we can make those right and not make those same mistakes again.
Can this be a teaching point for everybody involved? Because I find that a lot of people are just not really cognizant of this law that's on there, and people don't understand this law.
Absolutely. I think, it is a great teachable moment for everybody who's going to run for office. And you actually see this, it's more somewhat common than you would realize, because you have a lot of people who are not familiar with public service. They run as, I'm not a politician and I'm going to be an outsider and disrupt things. And then they don't necessarily take the time to learn what they need to know on the legalities of being a public official. So there's a lot of problems when those two things intersect. And then if you don't surround yourself with people who've been there before and know what you can and can't do, because of a bigger deal. We spend at the legislature an ungodly amount of time of doing educational courses for the legislators so they will understand as best they can what they can and can't do. And we always preach to them, or we did preach to them, if you have a question, please ask somebody. Here's where you should be alerted to. Call a lawyer, call us, call the Board of Ethics, call the, somebody to do on the front end. There's a lot of gray areas. I don't want to be, it's not always as easy, and I'm not a saint throwing a stone. It's difficult, more difficult than it appears to do, because there's so many various rules. Mm-hmm. I tell you what's different about this is the ethical stuff. Board of Ethics will fine you because you filed the wrong form on the wrong date. I mean, and then it makes, there was an ethical violation. Yeah, I mean, you were trying to do it, you filed the wrong form. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in ethics that's just about transparency and form filing. Bookkeeping type stuff. This actually goes to an election code issue, which is a much bigger deal. And so that's where I think the issue here is that you really should familiarize with the ethics code, and you really should consult with an attorney when you get yourself, once you're elected and you get yourself doing political events. It's a very some gray areas, because the one exception to the rule is the public official is allowed to put out information that's purely factual. And what do we mean by that? That's like if there's something on the ballot, and they want to explain an amendment that the people are going to be voting on, but you can use tax dollars to provide the public with the information. But what you can't do is try to sway their vote. You can't put a twist on it. And if you put a picture of you next to Kamala Harris, a picture of you next to Trump, and you're saying vote for this person, that's where you really got yourself into a pickle.
This is not a racial issue. Let's make that clear. This issue is about right and wrong. Parish President Jason Bedron was wrong.
What would you want to see the process be in this case?
The law is the law, and no one is above the law. Some people say, yes, it was a bonehead decision. But Martin, if hypothetical, if you would rob a bank and you would go before the judge and say, Your Honor, I'm sorry for what I did, you still would be held accountable.
And hypothetical. If you were advising the parish president right now, what would be your advice?
Call your attorney every time you have a decision to make, even in things that you think are benign, like showing up at a political rally. Find out the rules on the front end. Talk to that attorney. They're there for a reason. As attorneys, we always laugh. People call you after they've done the event, right? Did I do this? Was it legal? No. Call me on the front end, and it's cheaper. It'll save you more money than having to do in the back end. And look, I think everybody has the right intentions. It's not an issue of intentions are good or supporting the right candidate, but these are laws. They do have consequences, and ignorance is never a defense to the law.
It'll be a learning lesson for everybody involved. Sometimes we forget where we are and what we're doing, and we make those faux pas, and we have to, just like anybody in the public, we have to stand for what the consequences of our actions are. As long as, he's going through and he's doing the things that he needs to do to make things right in accordance with all those that you spoke of, then I don't see the need for the council to take any further action.
The message that I want to send here is we've learned from carelessness. We've learned from our mistakes. And listen, we all make mistakes, and we're going to make mistakes, but own your mistake, learn from your mistake, and move forward, and teach other folks how not to make the same mistake.
Let's pay the penalty, and let's move on as a community.
Whatever the law requires. And I'm not at liberty to be able to give that advisory opinion, such as the ethics board's will. So it's kind of a gray area. I don't wish ill on anyone at any time. Do I want folks to understand when if I make a mistake or if I have something careless that I do? Absolutely, I would want that. But at the same time, I have broad enough shoulders to understand I put myself in that situation, and I have to accept whatever comes after that.
My advice would have been, use your own private vehicle. That would have probably would have solved all the problems right there. But if you're going to be there, I think you had a better defense if you didn't put the Trump cutout next to you, because you could say, well, I was just in an election parade. I didn't know that we were supporting one candidate or the other. I heard we had an election parade, and I think I wasn't supporting Trump. I was just showing up for the election. But then when you take the cutout of Trump and put it next to you, it's hard to make that argument credibly that you were there for those reasons. You knew what you were going. It was for a particular candidate, and that becomes the problem.
What would you hope to see?
Well, I would hope to see that he go out in the community and talk to the people who are upset. Several people called me and said they would like to talk to the parish president about what he did. So he have an obligation not only to the African American community, but he have an obligation to the community of Terrebonne Parish as a whole.
When you get other people involved with it, and those circumstances the people that are employed by Terrebonne Parish. I don't know whether the police department got paid extra or was anything extra, anything that's happened right there. There's a lot of involvement that's dealing with that. You know what I mean? And I'm here to balance things, not to let it get out of hand, but the ultimate person that is responsible with that, and all I'm saying, I can look him dead in his face, is him. He has to reckon with that. Either he has to fess up or whatever of the circumstances by the letter of the law will go forward.
It's not about black and white. However, it's in black and white.
There's probably a lot of people watching at home and like, I don't really care, he broke the law, I support my guy. Right. However, we need to realize laws have to apply to everybody. I think one of the great things about this country is we've always prided ourselves on being a nation of laws, not a nation of men.
Well, by now you have heard of the controversy involving the Trump parade in Terrebonne Parish, where the parish president, Jason Bergeron, was in a parish vehicle and had a Donald Trump cutout in the vehicle itself. And to be very accurate, that caused a lot of controversy here in the parish. We addressed and we had people on our panel here on Bayou Time. We had members of the Terrebonne Parish Council. We had the NAACP president, Jerome Boykin, and we also listened as members of the community spoke out at the council meeting, which was on Wednesday night of this week in Terrebonne Parish. Needless to say, it garnered a lot of attention in the print field. It also garnered attention on social media, and we also covered it here on HTV. And we also know, in talking with the parish president himself and also his communications director, Robbie Lee, that the parish president has retained legal because it has become a legal matter. So therefore, on our request for the parish president to appear on HTV, he has accepted, and we'll give you a prepared statement that his attorneys would like for him to put out to you, the public, on the matter. So without further ado, we will now turn to the parish president of Terrebonne Parish, Jason Bergeron, so that he can address you directly right here in Terrebonne Parish.
Thank you, Martin, for this opportunity to address the public. I want to address the recent situation that unfolded on November 2nd. As I understand, it has caused some tension and discomfort. It was never my intention for things to develop the way they did, and I regret that the outcome has led to any misunderstanding or negative feelings. While we may have different perspectives on what occurred, I want to emphasize that I value the relationship and the views shared. I deeply respect everyone's point of view, and I truly regret this situation has caused frustration. Please know that moving forward, I will make every effort to ensure clearer communication and to avoid this in the future. I'm committed to preventing this from impacting our interactions and to maintaining a healthy and respectful dynamic with our residents. Thank you for your understanding, and I hope we can move past this with mutual respect and consideration. I'm always open to a constructive conversation. Thank you.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
A quick recap. Let's take a look at the races that are final in our four parishes we typically traditionally cover: Terrebonne, Lafourche, St. Mary, and Assumption. So as soon as we can get the numbers up, we'll kind of let you know where things are. Terrebonne Parish, which is now final, and that gives us an opportunity to see turnout was 66%, so a little bit lower is a slightly over 70 in St. Mary and Lafourche Parish, but so 66%. So the president's race, Donald Trump with 75% of the vote in Terrebonne Parish. And again, as I mentioned earlier, as a point of reference in the past, 4 years ago when he lost to Joe Biden, he had 74% of the vote in Terrebonne. And 4 years before that, he had 73% of the vote when he beat Hillary Clinton. Okay, the 3rd Congressional District district. Again, Clay Higgins winning it outright, district-wide, but here's his Terrebonne Parish number, 69%. Public Service Commission, congratulations, Jean-Paul Cousin. As Tanner mentioned earlier, his two best parishes number-wise tonight were Terrebonne and Lafourche, and he's from Lafayette, so what a race he ran. So he gets the victory, not only in Terrebonne, but within the district, the entire district. School Board, District 6, Clyde's former school board seat before going over to the parish council, also in the same district. Dr. Bud Kluche gets the victory. Very tight race, great race, by the way, between Kluche and Steve Shakesteiner, 51-49. The constitutional amendment, which won statewide, also easily with 82%. Here in Terrebonne Parish, the Coteau Fire Protection District 18 mil renewal easily passed, 78-22, and the Fire Protection District 9 failed, 51-49. That was they had 15 mils previous, did the in lieu of or increase from 15 to 20, and that failed, 51-49. That was 20 by the way, if you notice that, lost by 20 votes. So that is Terrebonne Parish numbers. We'll take a look at Lafourche coming up. In next segment as well, we'll be taking a look at St. Mary and Assumption Parish numbers as well. And here we go, Lafourche Parish. And again, their voter turnout, 71.1%. 80% of the vote for Donald Trump in Lafourche Parish, 18% for Kamala Harris. If you notice, none of the other, and the first time I noticed this all night, no one even registered 1% of the vote. None of the other candidates, none. You know, that is interesting. Now, that's only Lafourche Parish, and it's only because I just noticed it for the first time, but that's rather interesting. Okay, first congressional House seat is Steve Scalise, statewide, but district-wide, also in Lafourche Parish, easily winning, 81%. Troy Carter got 36%. I believe statewide, also not easily, barely won, getting over that 50% plus one. But Devin Graham and Christy Lynch made it interesting, at least in Lafourche Parish, for Troy Carter. Third congressional district, Clay Higgins won the re-election, the incumbent, 76%. That's just in Lafourche Parish. Again, Public Service Commission, we talked about that earlier in Terrebonne Parish a few moments ago, 63% for Cousin, and District 2 in Lafourche. Council, District 5. And in that particular race, again, congratulations to Terry Pierce for getting the victory over former Councilman Reb Rubisky and Greg Johnson. Again, 61% of the vote for Terry Pierce. And we go to Greater Lafourche Port Commission, District F. Again, this was the seat where the late Larry Griffin had this seat for a long, long time. He tragically died in July. Chad Kale takes the victory over Zach Gisclair, 64-36. Town of Golden Meadow, the mayor, Joey Bouziga, wins term number 6 with 51% of the vote over Frank Bourret and Mark Charpentier. Lockport, Barry Plaisance, the incumbent mayor, takes the victory, 80-20 over Bug Guidros. In Golden Meadow again, chief of police, the incumbent Troy Dufran lost 51-49. You can see that was by 9 votes. 789 votes cast. He lost by 9 to Michelle Lafont. District A, town of Lockport, a runoff between Disbrow and Alan Batto. Batto, by the way, is the current incumbent. We'll go to District Division 5. Oh, I'm sorry. No, he's not the incumbent. Gary Acosta. Excuse me. Gary Acosta had the seat, not running again. So it's Batto against Disbrow in the runoff. And Division B, town of Lockport, the incumbent Ernest Boudreaux Sr. in the runoff with D. Reinhardt, 47-38. Emily Took in the third place at 15%. Division C, town of Lockport, Selena Adams gets the victory over Mark Bergeron, and that was 58-42. Division D in Lockport, runoff between the incumbent Rodney Hartman and Riola Langgrass. Donna Bro was in third. Division E, Tyler Detillier is the incumbent, and he takes the victory over J.O. Dordor. And again, Golden Meadow Council, again, the top 5 get in. So it's Kevin Cheremy, Connie Lee Demir, Nancy Filinich, Kip Plazos, and Mike Billiot. Again, the state constitutional amendment also passed in Lafourche. And of course, there was a recreation district number 2, and that passed. So St. Mary Parish, again, presidential, again, this is only in St. Mary Parish, but Donald Trump with 65% of the vote to 34. Same phenomena that we noticed with Lafourche Parish. You notice that all the other presidential candidates, none of them even registered enough votes to get to 1%, including Robert Kennedy Jr., who was still on the ballot, who got 53 total votes. So technically he did come in third in St. Mary Parish. And you can also see right under Kennedy's name, the voter turnout in St. Mary Parish was 65.3%. So that's pretty good. Okay, the 3rd Congressional District, Clay Higgins won re-election. This was his vote total in St. Mary Parish, 67% for him. The council race, District number 2. By the way, 2 of the Morgan City councilmen ran unopposed. District 1, Tim Email and Steve Domingue in District 4. So this is District number 2, and Bonnie Leonard takes the victory. She was appointed to fill the resign. Mark Stevens had the seat and resigned, and in April, Bonnie Leonard was appointed to fill the seat. By the way, Bonnie Leonard, her husband, Ed Leonard, is a district court judge over there. So Bonnie Leonard technically was the incumbent, and she took the victory over Jean Paul Berg. John Paul, by the way, is the former parish public works director and resigned as the parish chief administrative officer back in March, and of course ran for the seat. So again, wound up being a pretty close race, 409 to 374. All right, district number 3, the city of Morgan City. Ron Bias, Rev. Ron Bias gets his 6th term. He gets the victory, 56% over Marcel Hoskins and Blaze Johnson. District number 5 in Morgan City. Eric Blanchard gets the victory over the incumbent, Louis Tamparello. Eric is a former police officer and is on the city recreation board. Congratulations to him for getting the victory. Of course, the statewide constitutional amendment, which passed statewide, obviously, and here are the numbers in St. Mary Parish with 77%, and of course their recreation district 3 mill renewal, and that passed 59 to 41. And again, those are the St. Mary Parish numbers. And in just a moment, we'll go ahead and switch on over to Assumption Parish and let you know how things are there. So again, just taking a quick back look at at St. Mary, there will be no runoffs coming up in December from any of those items. There will be some in Lafourche Parish. And now let's go ahead and take a look at Assumption. You can see Assumption, good turnout, 71.5%. So of the 4 parishes we cover typically here at HTV, this one had the best turnout, 71.5. Lafourche had 71.1. So Donald Trump with 67% of the vote, Kamala Harris with 32%. And just as we noticed, none of the other candidates, of course, with Robert Kennedy Jr. getting 25 votes, but Jill Stein actually got 28, a little bit more than him, but no one registered at least 1%. Okay, Troy Carter ultimately did win the seat statewide, but in Assumption Parish, it was very close. Troy Carter at 35, Devin Lance Graham at 28, and Christy Lynch at 28. Public Service Commission District 2, again, we know Cousin won it district-wide, did very well in Assumption with 65% to 18% for Nick Laborde and 17% for Julie Quinn. District Judge, 23rd Judicial District Court. Again, this is only the Assumption numbers. Again, it's Assumption, Ascension, and St. James, and Tony Falterman Menard, her Assumption numbers, and she's from there, and her dad was a former, DA and sheriff. She had 75%, but she also won it district-wide. And then the state constitutional amendment, 74%, as you can see, in Assumption Parish, and there was a parish-wide proposition, 3.5 mil renewal. And that was, and by the way, that's for the Assumption Council on Aging. It raises about $767,000 for the Council on Aging. So congratulations to them. And that one did pass 54 64 to 36. So those are the official Assumption Parish numbers. And if it were a trivia question, which of our 4 parishes had the highest turnout on a very high turnout election, it was Assumption Parish with 71.6%, very close second. And guys, we're going to go ahead and kind of, I believe we're going to take first look, and we're going to have a chance for all of us to talk a little bit at some of the statewide numbers. Again, Donald Trump, you can see with 60% of the vote in the state, 39% for Kamala Harris. Tanner, I'm not sure, and I apologize for either not remembering the number or not having the number. I'm trying to remember what his statewide numbers were. The two, I know what the Terrebonne and Lafourche numbers are, but I can't remember. There's a part of me that's thinking that number seems a little lower than I would have expected.
I think last time it was like 54%. Or no,
okay.
maybe not. Maybe like 56 or 57,
Okay.
maybe. It was something like that, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so it's within the ballpark. So 60% to 39%. And again, kind of the same, I don't know why I call it phenomenon, but none of the other presidential candidates, at least in the state of Louisiana, registered enough votes, including 6,400 votes for Robert Kennedy Jr. to register at least 1%. All the percents went to both Trump and to Kamala Harris. So let's go ahead and look at the first congressional district. Again, these are the district-wide numbers. I know it got a little confusing when we looked at the individual parishes, but Steve Scalise easily wins re-election, 66% of the vote for him. Congratulations to him. He, along with Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, are en route to Mar-a-Lago even as we speak to join in at the Trump party over there. Let's see, second congressional district, Troy Carter. And Tanner, again, we talked about this. Troy Carter, at least earlier tonight, kind of same thing with Cleo Fields. For a while, he was under that magic 50% plus one, but his votes came in.
Right.
Wherever his boxes are, which you got to think is kind of that New Orleans area.
Absolutely. He's actually traditionally been strong in New Orleans and sort of along the river and some of those communities, like St. John and all those areas around there. He's also been strong in.
Yeah, he did well, and he had a big TV buy. I know in that last week saw a lot of commercials, had some endorsements. Pretty impressive. So congratulations.
I served with Troy as well. He's a very gregarious guy, hard to not like.
Yeah, he seems that way.
Yeah, he is.
And then the funny thing is, and people may remember this from a few months ago, that his wife is in the military, I believe, and actually outranks him.
Right.
Which is you're kind of interesting. So Troy Carter, congratulations to him. Third congressional district, Clay Higgins wins re-election, 71%. Again, Tanner did a good job an hour or so ago kind of explaining how a big chunk of our area here in HTV is now kind of absorbed by him. When the lines got redrawn, I think it caught I got to be honest, it caught me by surprise. When I got my new voter card, I looked and I went, we got Clay Higgins now.
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't know and didn't follow it closely enough.
He represents Cameron Parish to Terrebonne Parish.
That's true. That's true. It's weird how that thing snakes. And in fact, I'll just tell people real quick, if you want to entertain yourself, look at the new congressional map. Just color coded, where you see what you just said. It is absolutely amazing what you guys had to do to make that work.
I did not support that map. I supported another map that kept Garrett Graves in Terrebonne Parish. But yes, that was after I left. They redrew it to do what they did.
Yep. Do what they did. I like how you said that. Okay, fourth congressional district, Mike Johnson on the way to Mar-a-Lago. The Speaker of the House easily wins re-election to his seat, 86% for him. The fifth congressional district, also re-election, Julia Letlow.
I served with Mike Johnson as well, too. I sat next to him, and now I sit here, and he's now Speaker of the House.
I know. Well, you were Speaker Pro Tem.
I know.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Good guy?
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. Very nice. Not as gregarious as like a Troy. Like I was saying, you're very more reserved in his demeanor, but super nice guy.
It's one of those things where could you have predicted?
No.
Did you ever look over and say, this guy's the Speaker of the House?
Never would have dreamed it, actually.
Because think about it. It didn't take him that long in Washington. Think about that to become Speaker of the House.
He does not offend people. I will say that, and I think that's his strength. I sat next to him in two committees, like as close as we are. So I spent a lot of time with him. Went out to dinner with him. A good friend, but never would I have dreamed that.
Wow.
Very reserved demeanor.
Be very interesting based on potentially the results of tonight's big election. We'll see how things turn out for him. Let's see, 6th Congressional District. Okay, again, this is the one, and it is final now. Final. Cleo Fields does get 51% of the vote, so he outpaces Elbert Guillory and gets into that new, with quotations around it, new 6th Congressional District seat. And we'll jump ahead a little bit. We'll get to the Public Service Commission. There it is, Jean Paul Cousin. And again, if we name drop, for Tanner McGee, not that he likes to do that, but here's his other good friend, Jean Paul.
These are all the people I served with. Me and Jean Paul were elected at the same time, came in together. We're roughly the same age. And, Jean Paul, his roommate in law school was from Houma, and was my mom's godchild. So me and I didn't know Jean Paul before we served together, but there was a connected map to connect us together. So Jean Paul definitely knew the area as well. I think that was a big help to him.
Yeah, that's a very good point right there. So he wins with 54% of the vote.
And he did a good job too, because like I said earlier, to win in such a big area, he had to have a good campaign strategy.
You're absolutely right. And real quick, a couple other ones we want to mention. That you see the 23rd Judicial District Court. Congratulations, Tony Fulterman Menard wins the judgeship. We're going to fast forward kind of to the end, guys. We just want to get to that constitutional amendment. There it is. And you can see it won statewide, Coastal Protection Restoration Authority. Congratulations, 73%. All right.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Turn our attention to Captain John Schaff, Morgan City Police Department. John, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Keith.
All right. I know this case has been ongoing for some 25 years now. It's wonderful that we've gotten a little more information. Tell us how we got to this point about closing this case out.
With technology changing and DNA and the advancement in that field, we were able to find some evidence that we resubmitted to the crime lab to be analyzed, and we were able to identify a link to a John Willis Pittman and the involvement of Miss Amber Garcia, who was killed in October of 1998.
Wow.
And due to the evidence, we were able to link Mr. Pittman to her homicide and charge him with second-degree murder, where justice will finally be brought to her family.
Wow. And this case has been ongoing. She was found on December 25th, 1998, right? When you guys responded, right?
She was actually found on October 8th of 1998.
Okay.
He is currently serving 40-year sentence in jail for the murder of Miss Jennifer Vidal, and her body was located on December 25th of 1998, a couple months after Miss Garcia.
Wow.
We were able to arrest him on the homicide of Miss Vidal, where he pled to manslaughter in the 16th Judicial Court and sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Wow. So I appreciate the clarification there with those two different dates of October and December. But it's just so very nice that we are able to kind of see this pattern for him, and that this pattern will never be repeated, as he'll have an additional sentence on top of that 40 years.
Yeah, we're very hopeful that we're going to get a conviction in this case. This is a case over the past 25 years, 26 years that has went through a lot of hands, a lot of eyes on it. We've always collaborated with each other to see on how we could possibly solve this case. And our current detectives were able to resubmit some evidence, like I said, and we were able to get justice for Ms. Garcia, her family. They were very pleased that Ms. Garcia was never forgotten about, and we're glad to come to a resolution on this.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they never, no matter what happens, they never really get complete closure until you know a little bit more, right? Until you get a little bit more of that clarity. And it's so nice that now we can be able to send some stuff over to Acadiana Criminalistics Lab and be able to really process that differently than we were some 25, 26 years ago. We didn't have the technology back then.
1998, that type of technology is still new and being figured out and being tested in the courts. And since then, with the updated databases and the way they test things, we were able to get a good DNA profile off of what we submitted.
Well, it's interesting. This family, as time was going on and they really weren't able to kind of close out, you guys were still working. Y'all were still trying to find a way to get this case to come to closure. And so Chief Chad M. Adams certainly was very complimentary of the whole team there, huh?
Yeah, no doubt. We're very, very fulfilling on this investigation. This is something that's kind of lingered around our department for a long time and thought about by everybody. And everybody who's ever went into the investigations has looked at this case. And we're just happy that we were able to come out with an arrest on it to hold who is responsible for Miss Garcia's murder.
Yeah, and so again, pictured here is the gentleman that was mentioned who had been arrested previously. So Mr. John Willis Pittman Jr. Was developed as a suspect in both of those cases. And here now he was serving 40 years of a sentence for that previous arrest. And now we may add on to that, as we were just talking about with regards to this particular case. Again, pictured here. The gentleman, Mr. John Willis Pittman Jr. And again, it's just one of those things where people have these patterns of behavior, and if we don't get these violent criminals off the street, then those things tend to repeat themselves, and this may have been the case here.
And we want to add, 26 years ago, Mr. Pittman was 18 years old and a young male, and has been locked up for the last 26 years. So, no telling what could have came out of that in the end, but that's the only two homicides that we suspect of him in this area.
Right.
We do believe that he traveled to either the Lafayette or Baton Rouge area in between December of 98 and between October and December. So we're collaborating with those agencies to look into their unsolved homicides that may have similarities to these cases and possibly develop suspects in those. So we ask if they are watching this and they have other information that could help us in our investigation, we'd be glad to help them out in theirs.
Well, you guys, and that's one of the things that I always commend law enforcement, especially in this area, of your excellent corroboration and collaboration with other law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, no doubt. We want to talk to all of our law enforcement partners because us working together as one gets a lot more accomplished for each other's communities. And as long as we can help each other out, then we can complete the task and make each other's community safe.
Yeah, and again, it takes a great deal of effort, a great deal of energy, and in this case, it's taken a great deal of time. But no matter what the time may be, no matter what the effort may be, it's always comforting for us as a community. Hopefully, it brings some peace to this family who've been wondering and questioning for some 25, 26 years now about what really happened, who was it that caused the demise of their loved one, and now we have more information about that. So kudos to your team. Kudos to the new technology, being able to do that. So, Captain John Sheff, we appreciate it very much. Thank you for the good news today and maybe some closure for this family.
Yeah, Keith, we met with them day before yesterday, and they were very pleased with the outcome of this, and were able to explain, because as everybody knows, not only is the victim a victim, but the family she left behind as being a mother and a daughter, they're still hurting after all these years, and now they're able to get some conclusion to what really happened.
Anytime there's a fire, we are so very, very glad to have you guys around. One of those things, y'all are so very well trained. Let's talk a little bit about this incident and what happened.
So last night at approximately 7:50 in the evening, we got dispatched to the airport area on Aviation Road for an airplane hangar that was on fire. Our first fire department units arrived on scene and found a large volume of smoke and fire coming from the inside of the building.
Right.
So they initiated their fire attack. So crews made entry and started a fire attack, and there was some explosions that happened within the building.
Okay.
So we had to evacuate for a little while, regroup, and then we was able to go back in and extinguish the fire.
Wow.
This fire actually went up to 4 alarms. It took us a little over an hour to get it under control and about another hour and a half to fully extinguish it.
Okay. And again, you can see by the pictures here about getting out there. And so 4 alarm is indicative of what? What does 4 alarm mean for us?
So each alarm brings us extra manpower and equipment in.
Wow.
So we actually ended up pulling roughly around 6 departments in.
Oh my goodness.
So we had about 50 firefighters on scene.
Wow. And again, it talks about, we talk about this all the time, but the teamwork that it takes to really make a difference in these kinds of situations. 6 different units.
Yes. So, and that was the only ones that were on scene. So what happens is we have a great team in this parish. All the departments work great together. So that means if we brought that many into the scene, we left some areas uncovered.
Right.
So the departments that didn't respond to our scene actually went into those other areas and stood by in case there was another emergency.
Wow, in recovery mode, if you will, just on standby.
On a standby mode.
Wow, fantastic. Jake, run those pictures again. Chief, take us through this a little bit, if you don't mind. So this is clearly outside the building. You said a lot of these things that were explosions inside.
In the main hangar, there was a few explosions. What you're seeing there is that's the office side of the building.
Okay.
And that fire had got into the attic, so we had crews on the top because of the way the attic was designed and the roof. So we had to actually cut the roof to get it to some of the fire.
Wow. Okay, you can see the office on the left side here of this hangar. The hangar here on the right is where Chief is explaining to us where there were some explosions in the inside of that hangar. And so have we been able to kind of figure out what may have happened, or are we still in the process?
So we did find that the origin where the fire started is going to be located inside the hangar. The exact cause is still being investigated.
Right.
At this time, we've also called the state fire marshal in to assist us in this.
Sure.
And they're going to take the lead from now on because of the high dollar value. That was lost.
Quite frankly, and you see a jet there,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And so that's jets don't come cheap. Neither do the hangars that house them, and the offices as well. But so clearly a big fire, and then a 4-alarm fire, meaning with the volume of people that was required, the firefighters required to take care of it and treat it. And again, here is your teams trying to put this fire out with volume of smoke that we had on November the 6th at 7:50.
Another interesting thing we did last night was we actually brought in the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office airboat to help ventilate the big space.
Oh my!
We don't do that often. This was the first time in my career we actually used it, but everything fit the box, so we tried it and it worked.
Wow! I'm just imagining calling in to the support from the sheriff's office, of course, who are already aware and in support, right, and take care of, but bringing in the airboat, because quite frankly, it puts forth more air than any unit could do, any fan could ever do.
Yes.
Wow. And so the ventilation process took place with an airboat.
Yeah, so we was actually able to vent the hangar space in probably 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's remarkable.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
That's only in South Louisiana, right? I mean, there's some pretty unique things about what we do where we live, but to bring in an airboat, which they have on service for us through the sheriff's office to be able to manage and maintain through what we need to do with our water patrol divisions, and just being able in 10 minutes for a hangar that size, that's remarkable.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Yeah, very cool.
We're thrilled to have you all here as we are honored for a century of dedication, growth, and impact. We're honored to have all of our employees here at the Houma General Office, dignitaries, friends of the community, councilmen, everyone that supports the community. Thank you all for your continued support. Today is a very special day. We have our museum truck that's here. It has a lot of momentous items in it. We definitely encourage everyone to come in and visit the museum truck. We have food for everyone today, so definitely want you all to engage and celebrate this occasion with us today. Today I have from our Atlanta corporate office, I have Mr. Matthew Bate. He is our Executive Vice President and CFO, and I also have our Chief Accounting Officer, Ms. Kelly Benton, here today to share this occasion with us. So, Matt, if you want to share.
Thank you, Sarmona. Good morning. I still got a few minutes left in the morning, right? Well, first, to Sarmona and the team for putting all of this together, I think a big round of applause. This is so for Kelly and I mean, we're honored to be here to partake in this 100-year celebration. It's not very often that you find a company that's 100 years old that's still growing like we are, and I think a testament to everybody that's worked at the company over all the years. A little bit earlier, we were talking about the history of Saya, and someone was asking questions, and I said, I've only been here 10 years. I'm not the one that you should be talking to. Thankfully, Kim came and helped me out and answered all the history questions. But I think, like Sarmona said, thank you all for sharing in this celebration. To our team members, to members of the community, I think this turnout speaks to everything that this company is and everything about this location. And we were talking about it last night about how much this company has meant to the community and how much the employees here have done over the years, whether it's helping each other out through a disaster or just helping the community in general. It was very much appreciated, and it was exciting to hear at the council meeting last night, everybody hear about it. So we're extremely honored to have some members of the Saya family here with us, and they can tell the story better than any of us, but it started in 1924 by Louis Saya Sr., and the first truck, as everybody here knows, was the family car with the back seats taken out of it. And to fast forward and look at all the company growth over the years, as we stand today, 213 terminals, $3 billion in revenue, 15,000 employees, I think a testament to the family, but also the entire organization and everything that's been done over the years. So incredible results from this group over the years. But here specifically, so the Houma office is, you talk to anybody in the company and they talk about what the Houma office and the terminals here. We have 8 terminals in Louisiana, 200 people at this office, 500 in the state of Louisiana when you think about all of our terminals. And this is the heart of everything that we do. Whenever we have new employees join the company, we always talk about the culture that's in Houma, all the people that are in Houma. We talked last night about the multi-generations that have worked at the company over the years. And I think that's a pretty incredible testament to what this company is and the people that are a part of it. So I appreciate everyone's willingness to partake in this celebration. I appreciate everyone's from the community that's come to support this and come to support all the people that work here. So just really last from me, Sarmona said, but please spend some time in the museum trailer. It's got an incredible visual history of the company through the years. It's got really interactive things. It's got a driving simulator. So I took a shot at that. It wasn't very good. So we'll leave that to everybody else. But please spend some time there. There's plenty of food. But most importantly, just thank you. Thank you all for letting us be a part of the celebration. Thank you for letting us be a part of the community. We take that very seriously. And I think it's pretty incredible to look at this company's growth over the years from the beginnings, and you'll see the sign in there that says from the humble beginnings, and you'll see a lot of those pictures, to what we do now, moving 35 to 40,000 shipments every single day for our customers. Every range of customers you'll see on our docks, and I think that is a testament to everybody that's been a part of this organization throughout. One of the members of the Saya family spoke at our annual meeting to kick off our 100-year anniversary at the beginning of the year, and she said, remember, before it was a company, it was a family. And I think that those words have never been more true throughout our organization, and especially today. So thank you all very much. Here's to 100 years, and here's to the next 100 years.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Falls. Very happy to have Chris Ernie up here, very integral part of the district attorney's office here in Terrebonne Parish. Chris, good to see you. How are you, sir?
Hey, Martin. Good to be back. Always good to see you.
Yeah, we've a big conviction. Francisco, how you say that second name?
Gutierrez Valle.
I knew you had to know. You've been in court for a long time
yes.
with this one, but y'all got a conviction from a man who, not common to this area, but came in. Tell us about the case, if you don't mind.
Sure. I mean, this was every father who has a daughter or sister, this is the nightmare, right? This guy stalked this young woman who admittedly was walking around by herself at night in a area right by the north branch of the library, in that area by H.L. Bourgeois, and she had a fight or argument with a boyfriend, so she wanted to get some air. She was just out walking, and he saw her and was stalking her, and at one point finally just kidnapped her and put her in the car at gunpoint and brought her to the truck stop in Bayou Blue, the Big Wheels, the next exit over, and raped her there, and then brought her to the Economy Inn here in Houma off of Hollywood Road, right behind Redfish Pizza, and basically raped her all night. It threatened her, basically indicated as long as you do what I tell you to do, I won't hurt you. And he had, what she believed was a gun. A warrant was later, as soon as he ended up dropping her back off near where he had picked her up, and she ran to her boyfriend's house. Said, well, where you been? What's going on? They called the police, and kudos to the sheriff's office. When they heard the story, particularly Detective Mitch Lapperouse, who's now at the State Police Academy, so he's a good one to keep for sure. When they first interviewed this young woman, the story sounded so fantastic. They had their doubts about it. But they want to check it out, so they went to look for video from different places. There was a Dollar General across the bayou, and there was a business next door. They got video from there. Mm-hmm. They got video from the truck stop where she had gone in to try to hide in the bathroom for about a half an hour. They saw her coming and going out of there. And they had picture and video from the library, which showed the abduction. And so when he saw that, I was like, everything she said was 100% accurate. And fortunately we had all of that so that this poor, victim could get her day in court and get justice.
Not to stereotype people who come from foreign countries. We have a lot of them. But are y'all seeing more? I'd have to ask you this question. Are y'all seeing more of an influx of this type of crime or similar crimes because of the large influx?
I don't know, because we've had so ironically I've had two sexual assault cases with illegal immigrants in the last that we resolved in the last month. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's an increase or just by chance the numbers. I don't know. We hadn't put any statistics to it. I know it's been a political issue across the country, especially during the presidential election. Mm-hmm. But when you try these cases, you can't bring that out because you want to try the case on what happened versus someone's illegal status or not. It didn't matter to us if he was illegal. My goal was to put him in jail for the rest of his life. I know y'all put a lot of emphasis. I know Mr. Waits does. I know you do. And everybody at the DA's office puts a lot of weight on the victim. Now, when the victim, yes, first of all, to go through that is so traumatic, it's unbelievable. But then they have to go through the court proceedings and get everything, and then try to reset to normal. I know y'all offer services to get them back to normal. Yes, and she's taken advantage of that, fortunately. We've had counseling services, and she's going through a rough time. Last 2 years, this happened right at 2 years ago, and the last 2 years have been difficult for her. Recovery, she's suffering from PTSD in addition to other things, and she's finally turning the corner. She's doing well. She's living with her family, and she seems to be on the good path. This was huge for her. She was there throughout the entire trial. She made a fantastic witness. When you tell the truth, it's easy. Mm-hmm. And she got, and the jury believed her. The jury believed her and felt her pain and felt what she went through and what she's continuing to go through. Chris, can you tell us about the sentencing part of this? Yeah, well, that'll come up in December. But he was convicted of two charges. One was first-degree rape, and the second was second-degree kidnapping. The first charge, first-degree rape, is a mandatory life in jail without the benefit of parole or suspension of sentence or probation. So he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life. Any remorse from the perpetrator? Not one bit. It's incredible. Not one bit at all. Well, it just goes to show you why he, did the crime, I guess, to begin with, right? Yeah, he's just one of those people. Just bad. Yeah. Just bad. So when you get, I know y'all success rate of getting them back out into society, what kind of advice do you have also for young ladies especially, is if, whether you're mad at your boyfriend or whatever the reason you're on the street, you got to be a little bit more precautious, right? Well, absolutely, and we tell our daughters and sisters and friends, don't go out by yourself at night. Don't go in a suspicious area by yourself. Don't do these things. And sometimes people make bad choices and do the things. And this was the example. This was every father's nightmare. Is what this was exactly.
The whole need for the special session on what was the reasoning behind the governor's decision to call this one?
Sure. When we look at the budget projections for the coming year and actually the whole 5 years, they give us a 5-year outlook, we could see that we were facing deficit situations. And so without a special session this fall, we knew we would be coming in April with somewhere between a $300 million and a $500 million deficit. And the way things work right now under our current Constitution, our current laws, is when the state is facing a deficit, we only have two options. You can either cut spending or you can increase tax revenue. And neither one is pleasant, but it seems that in modern times, governors tend to opt for, and the legislature tends to opt for, increasing tax rates or increasing the items that are taxable, because it's very difficult to cut spending when most everything is locked down under the Constitution or at least in statutory dedications. So when you look at the whole budget picture, if the legislature has to find cuts, ways to reduce what we spend, we really can only touch the state general fund, and that's a really small portion of the overall budget. And so that would be like if you suddenly had more bills coming in at your house, but the only part of your household budget you're allowed to touch is your checkbook. You couldn't touch your savings, you couldn't touch retirement, you couldn't touch investments or anything else except for what's in your checking account. It might be difficult. And so that's what we were facing. So the governor called a special session because we wanted to do tax reform, budget reform. And one of the things we looked at during the special session was Article 7 of the Constitution, which is where a lot of the way that we do the budget is set into law, and it's constitutional law. So the legislature can't change any of it quickly. It has to go before the voters. And so one of the things we did during the session was produce a rewrite of Article 7, and that's something that the voters will get to see in March and weigh in on. And we were able to do a lot of changes as far as deductions and credits and special funds. And so I think that the outlook's looking good. I believe that overall, although there were some items that were contentious and maybe not so popular, overall the outcome of the special session is good, and it should benefit the state by helping us to move forward and not facing all of the extreme limitations whenever we have a potential deficit.
Okay, and one of the, I guess, the reasons for a deficit, I guess you had a sales tax previously that was temporary, that was rolling off. Isn't that what contributed to a good portion of that deficit as well? Huh?
Well, maybe in the deficit projections,
yes,
but it really shouldn't have contributed to a deficit situation at all, except that, if you remember not too long ago, there was a vote to break the spending cap. Mm-hmm. And there were 19 of us that stood against that, but the majority of the legislature did not agree. And so a lot of what we wouldn't have spent got spent. And then when you spend too much, you have a deficit. And so that's part of it. Another part of it is that there is a lot of federal money in our budget. Almost 50% of Louisiana's state budget is coming from the federal government, which it's our tax dollars coming back to us, but they come back to us with strings attached, meaning we can't just use it as we please. We have to use it only on what the federal government says we can use it on. And so with a lot of the federal money being reduced now because we are past the COVID relief dollars, mm-hmm, we are past the storm dollars, and now we're getting back into a more stable revenue coming from the federal government, it's lower because we're out of these emergency situations. And so all those things combined do lead to less than what we had hoped for in revenue projections.
Okay, and I know you had, I guess, multiple areas that you can tap from when you're talking about taxes. There's so many different taxes. Can you tell me a little bit about the different areas that you can that you could tap into to maybe change something in what y'all looked at, including, I guess, you have the sales tax, you have state income, you have many different varieties.
There are a lot of different kinds, yes. Income tax, both individual and business, corporate. We have corporate taxes, franchise taxes, sales taxes, severance taxes. I mean, I'm trying to remember all the long list of taxes, and it begins to feel like I'm in a scene from Forrest Gump where we're saying all the different kinds of shrimp dishes. But there were a lot of possibilities of what could change, but after months of study and input, the governor put together a proposal and brought it to us of the best case scenario, the most popular recommendations from multiple sources, the Tax Foundation, Pelican Institute, and others that are very familiar with our budget and also the budgets of other states.
One of the things that are particular, I guess the biggest thing is state income tax and how that now going to a flat rate. Can you describe all that was passed during the session?
Sure, yes. We had lots of good measures, and I think the one that I'm happiest about is the lowering and the flattening of the individual income tax. Right now, we have a three-tiered system, and the highest tier is 4.25, I believe. And with the bill that we passed, the rate for everyone is going to be 3% across the board. And the lowest income earners are going to be exempt altogether because we doubled the exemption to $12,500 for individuals and for $25,000 for married filing jointly and head of household. So those who make the least income won't be charged any income tax at all. And so the plan is in a few years to be able to phase income tax out altogether. But at least at 3%, that puts us at the lowest rate among the southern regional states that do have an income tax. So good. It sets us ahead.
Okay, I know that was one area. You had other areas, I believe, also the corporate franchise tax. That's one that got eliminated. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Louisiana's had a franchise tax for I don't know how long, and it's rather unpopular and outdated, very rare, and it puts Louisiana at a disadvantage as far as being competitive with other states for businesses, and it puts our businesses that are already here at a disadvantage because if they had the same business in a different state, they could be doing better. So we've done away with the franchise tax altogether. And as far as other business taxes, we have, we've lowered the corporate rate from 7.5% down to 5.5%, which again helps us to be very competitive among our neighboring states. And we have phased out a lot of credits and deductions and exemptions, and so some businesses might be upset because an exemption they enjoyed is going away. Other businesses will get some relief because when you have a lot of credits and deductions and exemptions, it means that we are kind of picking winners and losers.
Sure.
Because somebody gets to get away with not paying a tax, and that makes everyone else have to pay more, and so it's just not fair. Besides that, when we talked about the income tax, I wanted to mention, too, that we've also doubled the standard deduction for those 65 and older. And so it won't just be the lowest of the wage earners, but it'll also be our seniors, our retirees, who also get the benefit of a higher exemption from income tax.
All right. So I know made some lowering of sales tax, but we were in a deduction, so we got to make up for it somewhere. So can you tell us how the legislature addressed that area?
Sure. So let's see. Whenever you reduce the state revenue, as I was saying before about the deficit situations, you have two choices. You either have to spend less as a government, or you have to bring in more revenue from somewhere. And if you're not going to raise the rate, then you have to broaden the base. And so doing away with a lot of credits and exemptions is also a way to broaden the base, because it means somebody who was not having to pay a tax will now have to pay one. But it means that everybody gets to pay a lower rate. So with, let's see. We also we're able to modernize the tax code by adding digital products and services. If you remember Blockbuster, it's not there anymore. And so now everybody has like streaming services at home, Netflix, for example. Well, when you tax those, it's a sales tax. Other states have digital services taxed. And so this modernizes our tax code. So yes, that's one thing some people might be grumpy about, because they say, well, I wasn't paying a tax on that last month. But all in all, this goes into making income tax lower and flatter, and even the business taxes lower and flatter across the board. And also, there was an increase to the state sales tax rate for now. It's going to go up to 5%, and it should drop back down in, I think, January of 2030 to 4.75. So when you combine parish and state together, we're already among the highest in the nation, and this will keep us at the highest in the nation. But for now, until our economy improves, after we get rid of our state income tax altogether, the individual income tax, then we can begin to lower that sales tax rate back down to something that's more level with what other states are charging in sales tax. And we also have removed the severance tax, and that's the tax on things like oil and gas coming out of the ground. There was a cap on that, so that in a parish, you weren't able to keep, as a parish, all of the severance tax you collect. Well, now the parishes will be able to, and this is to help offset the inventory tax going away. Parishes will now have a local option. They'll get to choose, do we keep the inventory tax, do we phase it out over a few years, or do we get rid of it completely? And for those that phase out or choose to get rid of it, the state will send extra revenue, at least for a little while, to offset that reduction in their revenue until they can adjust the parish budgets.
Okay, and that's the one we're talking about during the break, that more than the parish, the sheriff, and the school board as well, they all have to be on the same page on getting rid of it.
Yes, each parish has to make that decision for themselves.
All right, we only have about 25 seconds, but I know, where do you think in the future, does anything else need to be cleaned up in April, I guess?
Oh, absolutely.
We'll have too much time. Probably best if we don't even get into, and that we have you come back and explain it before that.
I'll just say this, efficiencies. We're going to be looking for departments and agencies to deliver services more efficiently, and that's going to help reduce the cost of services.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda.
Hey everybody, just a couple quick things. Obviously a tough day here. Tough day for me, tough day for this profession. It's kind of just gives you the reality of the situation. Dennis did a lot for this organization, and I consider him a close personal friend. So it's obviously a little bit of a tough situation. As I told the team earlier today, we've all had a hand, and me included, in where we are right now. And we're all going to have a hand in kind of digging us out of this hole that we're in. So, like I said, this is a day that's a little bit tough. It's a situation I've been through before, a couple different times. And, we need to circle the wagons right now. We need everybody on board. And the only way I know how to do it is to fight and work out of it. So that's what we're going to do. So with that, I'll take some questions.
Riz, what changes do you anticipate making?
Listen, John, we're going to look at everything. Everything's going to get, as I told the team this morning, everybody, and everything is going to get evaluated and reevaluated. because right now the product is not acceptable. So everything down from the schedule to how we do things to the active players to the daily schedule, we're going to look at everything. How we practice, all those different things. And so really haven't made any final decisions on all that, but a wise man and Hall of Fame coach once told me if something's got to change and something's got to change. So we're going to make some changes.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights.